comes in and he's expected to provide a boost.
All right, he's in now. I'll just let you know he in.
What's going on? How do you want to go?
Hey, I'll call you back. I'll call you back.
Second down.
I think they've said that Gabriel's in the concussion protocol and Sanders looks like he's going to play this week. So he's going to get a lot of reps this week, and we'll get to see what it really looks like this coming week with Shedeur Sanders.
If you thought you'd seen pressure, chaos, or sideline meltdowns, think again, because this time, the storm didn't come from the crowd, the rivals, or even the media. It came from inside the Browns' own practice field. This is Spill News, where secrets explode before your eyes. And today's secret? It's louder than the pads cracking in Berea. They said Shedeur Sanders was the calm one. They said Kevin Stefanski never loses his cool. They said the Browns were locked in. But the internet couldn't believe the whispers coming out of QB1 practice. And you won't either. Because according to people standing just feet away, Shedeur and Stefanski didn't just disagree. They ignited in a moment so heated, teammates had to step in before it got worse. And the craziest part? Some players say this wasn't random. This was building for weeks. Hidden tension, side-eye comments, pressure boiling under the surface. One anonymous player even said, "Bro said too much and they got him." So the real question is, if you were Shedeur facing the same pressure, same disrespect, same threat, what would you do? Let's break it all down. And trust me, it gets uglier. When the doors closed at the Browns practice facility that morning, nobody expected the air to feel heavy before the sun even climbed over Berea. Players walked with headphones on. Trainers rolled out the equipment. Staff scribbled on clipboards. Just another day. But for Shedeur Sanders, it wasn't. His chest felt tight in a way he hadn't felt since Colorado's most chaotic weeks. This wasn't nerves. This was something closer to impatience, frustration, and the quiet sting of feeling underestimated. And before a single whistle blew, teammates sensed it. Something was off. Something was brewing. The kind of energy that makes guys look at each other like, yo, be ready.
Yeah, for instance, I know our fans have a lot of expectations and hope. And I would be doing a disservice to myself and disservice to the organization if I didn't feel like I am the guy. I did everything I need to. I'm doing everything I need to prepare to be the best version of myself as possible. With the circumstances, everything got to be sped up, and that's great. You know, I like pressure in life. I'm just excited for everything. So, you know, I feel like I'm the guy. I know I'm the guy, but, you know, you just have to be able to see. The game got to speak.
Shedeur showed up early as usual, but there was a different walk in his step. Not arrogant, not shaky, determined. The line between confidence and confrontation is thin, and on that day, he was towing it. The night before, he'd watched film until 2 a.m. He replayed missed reads, rushed throws, timing issues, and plays where receivers and routes weren't synced. He didn't blame anyone else. That's not who he is. But he couldn't ignore the truth. Something had to change, and it had to change now. And in his mind,
Right, here we go. I mean, what a tepid response. Rational. Talk about lukewarm. I mean, damn. I mean, listen, we all know. Listen, Peter, where's the guy so incredibly connected to the National Football League with sources everywhere, knowing your football backwards and forwards the way that you do? Where's the guy that was saying, what's up with the cadence issue? What's up with no first team reps? What's up with the fact that Kevin Stefanski is a two-time NFL Coach of the Year, 2020 and 2023, having a quarterback who's a rookie so flagrantly ill-prepared to be on the football field last week? Where that Peter Schrager at? Now, come on, man. Come on now. This is what I'm talking about here when I'm talking about. Listen, in the interest of full disclosure, Doggy, Swagoo, and Peter.
Kevin Stefanski, a two-time Coach of the Year, needed to hear it, even if it rubbed him the wrong way. The whispers from last week were still echoing in the building. Talk about how Shedeur, despite his talent, wasn't getting the reps he deserved. Players joked about it in the locker room. Reporters hinted at it. Fans raged online about it. Even analysts on ESPN called out the rep distribution, saying it was borderline sabotage. Shedeur didn't say it out loud, but everyone knew he felt it. You could see it in the way he studied the playbook, like he was preparing for war. You could see it in the way he stayed after practice throwing passes to practice squad receivers because he wasn't getting them with the starters. And you could see it in the way he looked at Stefanski, respectful but burning with a quiet challenge. So when Stefanski called him over before reps started, players nearby lifted their heads just a little higher. They acted casual, stretching, tying cleats, adjusting pads, but their ears were wide open. Nobody wanted to miss whatever was about to happen. Stefanski began talking in that calm, firm voice he uses during interviews. Something about footwork, something about staying patient, something about trusting the process. But the moment he said, "You're still not getting full QB1 reps today," something in Shedeur snapped. It wasn't rage. It wasn't disrespect. It was a feeling of being held back, again, after proving himself over and over.
Shedeur on this show before, pre-draft. I know he struggled a little bit, but did move the ball and gave them an opportunity at the end of the game. It just didn't work in their favor.
Yeah, regardless, we have a job to get done, and we got to, make his life miserable, and we got to shut down their offense, for us to have a chance. And I got a ton of respect for, obviously, OG, Dion and his whole family. They're great people. And
Shedeur stepped closer. His voice didn't rise, but the tone changed. Tension cut through the air like a blade. A few players froze mid-stretch. One equipment guy quietly backed away. You could almost hear their thoughts. "Yo, what's happening?" Shedeur told Stefanski. He couldn't keep preparing halfway. He told him he needed the reps, needed the rhythm, needed the trust. He said he wasn't here to wait his turn behind someone he knew he could outperform. And while he didn't raise his voice, the firmness in his words made the message impossible to ignore. But here's where the fire started. Stefanski didn't just disagree. He pushed back. He said Shedeur wasn't ready yet. He said there were moments he needed to clean up. He said the system wasn't built for shortcuts. And then he made the one comment players later said lit the fuse. Stefanski told Shedeur that football isn't about feelings. A short line, 7 words, but said to the wrong player at the wrong moment. Because Shedeur Sanders, the kid who trained through broken ribs and sleepless nights in Colorado, the kid who played one of the toughest schedules in college football, the kid who carried entire fan bases on his back, was not someone who ever led with feelings. Teammates said Shedeur leaned forward just an inch, almost like he needed Stefanski to know he heard every letter of that sentence. His jaw tensed, his shoulders stiffened, and in a voice barely above a whisper, he said something that spread across the building within minutes. "I don't play scared, and I don't play small. If you want a quarterback who does, that's not me." That comment made a few players mutter, "Damn," under their breath. Now eyes were locked. Body language turned hostile. It wasn't yelling, but it was worse. It was 2 men standing inches apart, both convinced they were right, both refusing to back down, and both aware the entire team was watching. Then came the moment everything tipped. Stefanski tried to walk away, ending the conversation. But Shedeur stepped forward, not blocking him, just refusing to let it end like that. He wasn't done. He wanted clarity, respect, accountability. Something more than a vague coach speech. And when Stefanski turned back, his expression had changed. No longer calm, no longer patient. The miscommunication exploded. Voices rose. A few curse words slipped. Nothing outrageous, but enough to make players jump up. The energy shifted. Words became sharper. Both men stood chest to chest now. Not touching, not swinging, but undeniably close enough for someone to think this would go left fast. Then, according to one witness, Stefanski said, "You need to learn your place." Silence. Then every helmet on the field turned their way. Because Shedeur Sanders, learning his place, after surviving Colorado's injuries, pressure, draft fall, criticism, and earning the shot the hard way, that comment hit harder than a blitzing linebacker. Shedeur stepped forward again, and this time, even from across the field, you could see the fire in his eyes. Players said it was the first time he truly looked angry, not frustrated. Angry. The kind of anger that can't stay contained. The kind that radiates. The kind that makes grown men move. And move they did. Offensive linemen jogged over. Receivers followed. Even defensive players came out of nowhere. Nobody wanted headlines. Nobody wanted drama hitting the blogs. Nobody wanted things escalating into something the team wouldn't recover from. By the time Nick Chubb and Wyatt Teller stepped between them, both men were heated, breathing heavy, locked in a stare that said everything words couldn't. No punches, no shoves, but more than enough tension to make players feel like they needed ice packs. Afterward, and even as they were separated, neither one looked away. Stefanski's jaw clenched. Shedeur's hands balled into fists not out of violence, but out of sheer frustration. But what happened next, even his enemies didn't expect. Even after the shouting stopped and the teammates pulled them apart, the energy on the field didn't settle. You could almost feel it vibrating off the turf like static electricity. Players who were supposed to be warming up kept glancing towards Shedeur, then towards Stefanski, then back again, as if waiting for round two. Even the media, who weren't supposed to see any of it, felt a disturbance through the tinted glass windows above the practice field. Something big had happened, something the franchise couldn't hide for long. Shedeur took a few steps back, pacing, trying to collect himself, but anyone watching could tell his emotions weren't cooling down. He wasn't someone who exploded easily, but when he did, it came from a place of deep belief in himself and deeper frustration in being ignored. One assistant coach walked toward him with hesitation, like approaching a dog guarding food. Another coach stepped towards Stefanski to calm him down, but Stefanski brushed him off, eyes still locked in Shedeur's direction. The moment spread across the field, like gossip moves through a high school hallway. One rookie whispered to a veteran, "Yo, did you hear what he said?" Another responded, "Bro, that wasn't just an argument, that was personal." And soon, practice didn't feel like practice. It felt like a court hearing. Every rep was watched. Every breath felt heavy. And then the unthinkable happened. A few players started taking sides. It wasn't intentional, at least not at first, but body language doesn't lie. Some players walked up to Shedeur, patting him on the shoulder pads, giving him small nods like, "We got you." Others gravitated towards Stefanski, trying to reassure him that he still had control of the room. But the truth was obvious. He didn't. What made this moment explode online later was that someone, an anonymous staff member who clearly saw a TikTok opportunity, leaked a blurry side-angle video. It wasn't a full thing, but it was enough. Shedeur stepping forward, Stefanski stepping forward, the raised voices, the teammates pulling them apart. No context, no audio, just enough for the internet to go feral. Within 30 minutes, Brown's Twitter turned into a wildfire. Comments like, "Bro, they fighting for real? Stefanski losing the locker room? Shedeur really like that? Why is this franchise always in drama?" And then came the fan conspiracy threads, fan edits, people tagging Deion Sanders saying he needed to check management, and even sports pages thirsting for views by posting dramatic captions like, "Cleveland might have a new QB1 war." But the real chaos wasn't online. It was inside the locker room. When practice shifted to 7-on-7 drills, Stefanski did something players later said poured gasoline on a fire already burning. He called out Dylan Gabriel. Yes, the same quarterback whose reps have been prioritized all season, to take the first snap. Purpose? Maybe structure. Maybe revenge. Maybe a message. But whatever it was, Shedeur felt it instantly. His face didn't change, but something inside him did. Receivers noticed. They didn't run routes the same way. Timing was off. The energy was off. Guys who normally joked and smiled before drills suddenly went silent. Because everybody knew, you don't poke someone like Shedeur Sanders and then pretend nothing happened. And then the second moment hit, the one that truly divided the room. On the next rotation, instead of giving Shedeur the second set of reps, Stefanski called for the third-string quarterback. That was it. The sideline froze. Veteran players exchanged looks like, "He's not doing this. He can't be doing this." Some defensive players even muttered, "Ain't no way," under their breath. But Shedeur, he didn't react the way anyone expected. He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He didn't walk off. Instead, he slowly picked up his helmet, strapped it on, and walked to the far end of the field alone. That quiet walk said more than any outburst could. It was a kind of silence that scares coaches because it means a player is thinking, really thinking about his future, thinking about loyalty, thinking about whether staying quiet has ever gotten him anywhere, thinking about whether he was being held back on purpose. Even Stefanski noticed. He paused for a second, glanced toward Shedeur, then looked away quickly, as if realizing he may have crossed a line he couldn't uncross. It only got worse when Amari Cooper jogged over to Shedeur, not the other quarterbacks. And then Jerry Jeudy, too. That was the moment people later described as the shift. The moment it became clear. Players were aligning themselves based on who they believed in, and many of them believed in Shedeur. While all this tension brewed, a Brown staffer inside the building examined practice footage to review drills. That's when he found it. Another angle of the altercation, one with audio, one where you could actually hear Stefanski saying, "You need to learn your place." And Shedeur responding with, "My place is on that field, not waiting behind reps I earned." The staffer froze. He knew this clip could blow up the franchise if it leaked. He knew one wrong move and the season could spiral. He sent it to upper management immediately, within minutes. Phones were buzzing. Meetings were called. Doors were locked. Management knew they had two problems. Their star rookie quarterback was on the verge of distancing himself from the coaching staff. Their head coach had just said something that the entire locker room interpreted as disrespect. And while they scrambled behind closed doors, the players were dealing with the fallout in real time. Word spread, the quote spread, and by the time the team moved into full team drills, both sides were tense enough to snap. Reporters outside the facility noticed players walking differently. They noticed how unusually quiet the building felt. They noticed that Stefanski skipped his regular post-practice media availability. And they noticed, most importantly, that Shedeur walked out with headphones on, hood up, jaw clenched, and a fire in his eyes that said he was done being patient. But just when everyone thought the situation couldn't get messier, another name came up. And it wasn't a player. It wasn't a coach. It wasn't even someone from the Browns. It was someone much bigger. Someone who had been silent until now. Someone who changed everything the moment his voice entered the conversation. Deion Sanders. The moment Deion Sanders' name entered the building, everything changed. Not because he walked in physically. He didn't. But because behind closed doors, behind tinted office windows and locked meeting rooms, his voice hit the Browns organization like a siren. It started with a private call. A call no one was supposed to know about. A call that got leaked by someone who couldn't believe what they heard. According to an anonymous staffer who overheard part of the conversation, Deion didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He didn't grandstand. His tone was calm. Too calm. That was the part that scared them. Because when Deion gets quiet, it means he's already made up his mind. It means consequences are coming. On that call, he reportedly said, "My son doesn't back down from pressure, but don't mistake his patience for weakness." And then a pause. A long one. The kind that makes everyone listening shift uncomfortably in their seats. If he's not being treated right, trust me, I know how to handle that. That line sent a chill through the building. The Browns front office knew exactly what that meant. Prime wasn't talking about violence. He was talking about exposure, about narrative, about the power he has over national media. One post, one interview, one hint of disrespect. And the Browns have become the NFL's trending topic for all the wrong reasons. Inside the locker room, players felt the aftershock almost immediately. Coaches held a closed meeting to discuss alignment and communication. But everyone knew what the message really was. We messed up. Offensive assistants came out with tight expressions. Stefanski looked drained, not angry now, but conflicted, like a man realizing he'd pushed something too far. Meanwhile, Shedeur sat at his locker, quiet but not shaken. His headphones were on, his eyes were focused, and his body language told the entire team one thing: I'm not backing down. Several players walked over, some veterans, some rookies, and gave him nods of support. A few even whispered variations of, "We got your back," or "You're QB1 in here." It wasn't rebellion. It was unity. And unity scares people in power when they don't control it. As the tension thickened, the Browns' PR team scrambled. They drafted statements. They prepared talking points. They discussed preemptive damage control in case the leaked video went viral. But before they could finalize anything, part of the audio from the argument earlier mysteriously leaked onto X. Not the video, not the full clip, just 5 seconds of audio. Stefanski's voice, "You need to learn your place." And then Shedeur's reply, "My place is on that field." That was all the internet needed. Hashtags formed instantly. Hashtag let Shatter play, hashtag QB1 drama, hashtag Browns in shambles. Fans weren't debating. They were choosing sides. Analysts were called on to shows last minute. Debate shows were rewriting segments. The narrative caught fire like dry grass. Inside the Browns building, management went into emergency mode. The GM, owner, and Stefanski held an immediate meeting. Hours passed. Tension rose. People paced the halls. Some players pretended not to listen. Others openly leaned closer to doors, trying to catch pieces of the conversation. Then, in the middle of that chaos, something unexpected happened. Someone very unexpected walked into the building. One of the most respected leaders on the team. Quiet, consistent, veteran. The guy who rarely speaks unless it matters. Amari Cooper. He didn't yell. He didn't dramatize. He simply said, loud enough for front office to hear as he passed, "If we're trying to win games, we need calm, not ego." And kept walking. That line struck deeper than any argument that day. Because coming from him, that wasn't gossip. That was truth. Meanwhile, Shedeur finally walked into the QB room. Not storming in, not heated. Calm. He sat down, opened his tablet, and started reviewing film like nothing happened. That was the moment coaches realized the worst-case scenario. He was unbothered. He wasn't rattled. He wasn't emotional. He was focused. And focus is dangerous when someone feels they've been underestimated too long. One assistant coach tried apologizing quietly. Another tried explaining why reps had been moved around. A third tried blaming miscommunication. Shedeur didn't argue. He didn't take the bait. He simply said, "I show who I am on the field." That's it. That line echoed. Because through all the chaos, the reality remained. Sunday was coming. Fast. And whether the Browns were ready or not, the NFL world was going to watch every single second of Shedeur Sanders' first full QB1 debut. The pressure wasn't on Shedeur anymore. It was on Stefanski. And then came the twist no one expected. Late that night, after the building had mostly emptied, after calls had quieted and reporters had gone home, after the social media storm settled into a simmer, something leaked. Something bigger than the audio. Something bigger than the sideline argument. Something that turned the entire situation into something deeper. A private text message chain between two anonymous Brown staffers made its way onto a fan forum. The conversation wasn't long, but it said enough to detonate the internet overnight. One staffer typed, "Steph really didn't want Shatter starting. Said he wasn't earned yet, but front office pushed it." The other responded, "They didn't push it. Prime pushed it." And that was the moment the public realized this wasn't just a football decision. This wasn't just a practice argument. This wasn't just tension. This was political. This was personal. This was a power struggle. The fight wasn't about reps. It wasn't even about quarterback competition. It was about control. Who controlled the narrative? Who controlled the locker room? Who controlled the future? And with that leak, everything snapped into place. Fans saw the bigger picture. Analysts saw the deeper conflict. Players understood the stakes. And even the front office faced an uncomfortable truth. No matter what happened next, the Browns were standing at the edge of a storyline that could either make them legends or tear them apart from inside. As the lights dimmed in Berea and everyone went home, one final camera caught one final moment. Shedeur Sanders walking across the empty parking lot, helmet bag slung over his shoulder, face calm, expression unreadable. And for the first time all day, he smiled. Not at his phone, not at anyone else, just to himself. A quiet, confident smile. The kind of smile you see before a plot twist. The kind that lets you know He already knows how this ends, because the secrets, they weren't over. They were just getting started. And there you have it. The moment that was never supposed to leak, the argument that was never supposed to spread, the tension that was never supposed to leave the walls of the Browns facility. Yet here we are, standing in the middle of a story bigger than football, bigger than egos, bigger than headlines. A story that exposes how fragile loyalty can be, how fast narratives can flip, and how pressure reveals the truth hiding underneath every polished press conference. Because when you strip away the speculation, the interviews, the insider whispers, what you're left with is simple. A young quarterback fighting for a chance, and a head coach fighting to keep control in a building that suddenly feels divided. But now the question becomes, what happens next? Does Shedeur walk into Sunday's game and silence every critic who ever dared to call him overrated, unprepared, or unearned? Does Stefanski recover the locker room and regain the trust he lost behind closed doors? Or does this become another chapter in the long list of Cleveland Browns implosions that fans talk about for the next decade? Only one thing is certain. The cameras will be rolling, the eyes of the league will be locked in, and every single play will feel like a statement. So now it's your turn. What do you think really happened during that heated moment? Was it frustration, ego, mismanagement, or something deeper? A power struggle that finally cracked open? Drop your thoughts down below because this story isn't ending here. Not even close. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash that like, and turn on notifications. Because trust me, this season is only getting crazier. More leaks, more whispers, more drama, and we're going to cover every second of it. Stay tuned, because the next update might just shock you even more.